The sun hadn't fully risen yet when Emily Bennett stepped out of the dented trailer she called home, wrapped in her father's oversized flannel jacket that still faintly smelled of engine grease and peppermint, a strange but comforting mix that reminded her of better times, before cancer claimed him and Bill started drowning her mother in tears and helpless sighs, leaving Emily, just 17, to become the glue holding their fragile lives together in a forgotten corner of rural Illinois. She walked with purpose along the gravel path leading to Murphy's garage, a worn-out, one-man operation where she'd been working under the table since she was 14, ever since Mr. Murphy saw her patch up her mom's old Ford with duct tape, a wire hanger, and sheer determination, a sight that made him mutter, "Kid's got magic in her fingers," and offer her a job on the spot. Not because she asked, but because he saw what she couldn't yet see in herself, and every morning since, Emily arrived before the sun and left long after it bowed out, hands greasy, arms sore, but heart full, not just because she loved fixing cars but because every tire changed, every engine revived, brought her closer to affording her mother's medication, closer to someday escaping the cycle of poverty that clung to them like rust on a forgotten bumper. That particular morning, a black BMW. Shiny, new, and definitely out of place in a town where most folks drove trucks held together with hope. Limped into the lot, steam hissing from under the hood, the engine making sounds like it was begging for mercy, and out stepped a man in his mid-30s, well-groomed, suited, clutching a leather briefcase and a phone glued to his ear as he barked into it about delayed meetings and lost time, clearly someone from a world far removed from Emily's, his polished shoes crunching uncomfortably on gravel as he looked around for a real mechanic. When his eyes finally landed on her, ponytailed and oil-streaked, holding a ratchet and a mug of instant coffee, he visibly hesitated, doubt flickering across his face like a shadow, but time makes fools of pride, and after two tow companies told him they'd take at least 3 hours, he gave in with a sharp sigh and said, "Can you take a look?" Not quite believing she could, not quite sure she should. But Emily nodded without a word, set her coffee down, and got to work. Her movements precise, focused, elegant in their utility, like watching poetry written in engine parts, and within 20 minutes, she diagnosed the problem, a cracked hose, easy to miss but devastating if ignored, and she replaced it with a used part from the back, tightened a few loose connections, wiped off the grime, and told him, "You're good to go." Her voice soft, unassuming, the way people speak when they're used to being overlooked but never unkind. The man, Daniel Harper, though she didn't know that yet, blinked in disbelief, fumbling for his wallet, offering her a crisp $100 bill, but Emily shook her head and said, "Just happy to help," then turned back to her work without waiting for praise or thanks, leaving him speechless, holding the money like an idiot in a movie scene, and as he drove off, engine purring, something in him shifted. He couldn't explain it, not in boardroom terms or investor metrics, but that girl with dirt on her face and light in her eyes had done something no consultant ever could, made him feel something genuine, a rare currency in his high-powered, deal-making life as CEO of Torque Tech, a rising star in green auto innovation. Back in his downtown Chicago office, amid chrome desks and digital calendars, he couldn't shake the memory of her face, not because of her refusal of money or her skill, though both were impressive, but because of the quiet dignity she carried like armor, the kind that no resume can capture, and by the next morning, he was on the phone with admissions departments, scholarship boards, and his own PR team, connecting the dots between his influence and her potential, and 2 weeks later, he returned to that same dusty garage, dressed down this time, holding a manila envelope instead of a wallet, and when Emily looked up, she recognized him and offered a quick, warm smile, thinking he'd just come to say thanks, but instead, he handed her the envelope and said, "Someone with your talent deserves more than this place can give," and inside was a full scholarship to a top technical university, paid internship at Torque Tech, and housing support for her and her mom, all arranged quietly. With no media, no cameras, just one life being transformed because of a moment of selfless kindness, and Emily, holding the papers with trembling hands, tears slipping down her cheeks, looked up and whispered, "Why me?" and Daniel answered, "Because the world needs more people like you behind the wheel," and those words would echo in her heart for years, guiding her through college where she excelled beyond anyone's expectations, balancing studies and work while still sending money home, and within 3 years, she became the youngest systems engineer at Torque Tech, known for her brilliant designs and even brighter heart, but it wasn't the accolades that defined her, it was what she did next. She launched a foundation called Fix Her Future, offering free automotive training to girls from underserved communities, especially those who, like her, knew what it meant to fix things with empty wallets and full hearts, and at the launch event, standing in front of a small crowd of journalists, donors, and hopeful young girls, Emily shared her story, not to brag, but to inspire, ending with, "Kindness is a powerful tool. It doesn't just repair engines, it rebuilds lives," and in the audience, Daniel sat quietly, his eyes damp, humbled by how a flat tire on a cold morning turned into a movement, and over time, her story traveled far, across newspapers, into classrooms, and even on late-night talk shows, touching people who'd never held a wrench but who understood the truth behind her journey. That greatness can come from unexpected places, that generosity often sprouts from hardship, and that the girl who once fixed cars under a leaking roof now built futures under a clear sky, not because someone rescued her, but because someone believed in her, and gave her the chance to rise. And long after the headlines faded, long after Torque Tech went public and her foundation opened branches in other states, people still told the story of the poor girl who fixed a rich man's car and refused his money, and how that one small moment changed not one life, but many, proving that sometimes, all it takes is a kind heart, a steady hand, and the courage to show up, no matter how broken the world seems, no matter how little you have, because in giving without expecting, you unlock something far more powerful than wealth. You become the reason someone else dares to hope again.